you exchange a phone number or make a plan for a coffee, something like that, so that you can continue the conversations and the bonds that we've started. So I want to hear from you. What was some of what you heard as you looked at your question? Just raise a hand if you've got one, and I'll kind of repeat you. And you can tell me first what the question was that you looked at, and something you heard that inspired you. Yeah, go ahead. Everything will happen in God's time. What was your question that you read or that was highlighted on your sheet? Blessed are the poor in spirit was part of it. And your answer was sort of all things happen in God's time. I love that because when I hear that, I think of all the people that Jesus was talking to, right? This would have been a huge crowd. There would have been, lots of outcasts, lots of people called other. There would have been tax collectors, which were like ancient mob boss kind of vibes, right? There would have been people down on their luck. There would have been Roman occupiers. There would have been oppressed folks, Jewish folks. There would have been pious folks, everybody sitting around listening, and Jesus saying, blessed are the poor in spirit. In our conversation, I heard some folks talk about people that were down on their luck, that everybody seemed to be against them. How do we take this poor in spirit thing and make it blessed? Perhaps with God's time. Ron, what were you going to share? Even in the difficult times, when things are going bad. When things are going tough. Yeah. We try to avoid or alleviate difficulty. And even in those hard moments, even in those, sometimes the answer is not yet. Sometimes the answer is trusting that it's all unfolding according to God's plan and God's time. Maybe it feels like death right now, but what these stories continue to tell us is that death isn't the end. That's why the poor in spirit are blessed, because they're on their way to the resurrection, if they can believe that. What else? What else did you hear at your tables? What were the questions that provoked you? Y'all listened to each other, right? That was kind of the assignment. Yeah, Mark. To be pure in heart, yeah. Raising kids, you start with a blank piece of paper, okay? Fill it with the good things. Every day you start with a new one, with a blank sheet of paper. I mean, and that's why we do that confession bit that we do together, right? It's our way of sort of erasing the paper, whatever's on it. Stop carrying it around if it's full of bad stuff or stuff that makes you feel bad. Fill that paper with the good stuff. And in our group, we talked about some of the pure of heart things too, and the opportunity that creates for us to reflect goodness. When we do that, that's when we become pure in heart. Maybe we can purely reflect the belovedness. I love that. Fill your blank sheet today with good things. Yes, Holly. Blessed are those that mourn. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens isn't good, but you have to allow your heart to feel. It's okay that your heart breaks open. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The child expressing their emotions, but we're taught to suppress. Yeah. Yeah. Allow yourself to mourn the pain, the fear, the destruction, when people harm one another. And then there's people that can uplift you and help you through it. It's almost like the teaching telling us you actually have to feel these things. You have to feel these feelings. And we're taught to just look at the bright side or get over it or don't feel it, avoid it. I heard that. I mean, that's sort of the root, from what I've heard, that's sort of the root of addictive behaviors, right? I want to avoid, avoid, avoid. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to feel the mourning, the grief, the destruction, all of those things. And here Jesus is saying, actually, blessed are those who mourn, that actually feel it, because there's some stuff that happens in this world and in our lives that hurts. And there is some way in which that is tied to our ability to love. I think that's the message of the cross. It is pain. It is brutal sometimes. And the why is because of love. Because love draws us into empathy and compassion for others. So you said others can help us through it, can support us. Others can hurt you too, that's right. So we have to keep filling the sheet too, right? We have to keep filling the sheet, the friends, the pockets, the communities. That's why we gather, so we can be around the beloveds, so that we can continue to love each other and reflect from our pure in heart group, reflect our belovedness given to us by God, but not to avoid the pain, the mourning, the grief, not to tell people to get over it, but so that we can feel it, move through it, love each other through it, and know that resurrection's on the other side of it, that if we keep holding on just a little while longer, God's going to make that resurrection, that hope. So Jesus says, blessed. No. You're not bad because bad things have happened. You're not bad because you feel sad, because you're mourning and grieving. You're not bad because you feel weak or meek. You're not bad. You're just going through it. You're human. And there's goodness somewhere in there, usually on the other side. Now, I don't recommend you walk up to somebody in the depths of their pain and go, don't worry, it's going to be better on the other side. That's not going to help. Instead, we have to feel our own grief and mourning, be with people in theirs unafraid, because we know that there's blessing even here, even in the darkest night, even in the pain, even in the grief, even in the mourning, even in the cross. We call it Good Friday because God makes even that good. These lessons, these Beatitudes, were some of Jesus's primary teachings. When Jesus did the Sermon on the Mount, he was trying to tell people what to remember, what to know, who they are, who God is, all through these teachings. So over the next several weeks together, we're going to be looking and deep diving into these teachings, because later in the story, when Jesus comes to the table on the night he was betrayed, and he looks around the table at his friends and he calls them beloved, and he says, remember. Remember. So he takes these normal elements that they would have had at any meal, and he would bless them. And he said, this is my body broken for you, for the forgiveness of sins. Take and eat. Do this in remembrance of me, of these teachings, of your belovedness, of all of these blessings that you've just read and studied. In a similar way, Jesus took the cup, said, this is the new covenant sealed in my blood. Drink ye all of it and know, remember, do this in remembrance of me. That every time you eat this bread, let's take it a step farther. Anytime you eat any bread, any food, and anytime you drink this cup, let's take that a step further too. Anytime you drink any cup, you proclaim the saving death of the risen Lord. You proclaim your belovedness and the belovedness in each one you see, created in the divine image. Eat and drink. Do this in remembrance of me. Myself and a couple of our elders will come by your table to have a little hand cleansing as well as to serve you. And there will be some gentle music playing. So when I come to your table, we'll share the bread and the juice. But when no one's at your table, feel free to quietly speak to each other about something that provoked you, something that you've learned today.